Coming up on USL Pro Weekly, the Energy hit the ground running with victory in their opening game, but the Galaxy 2 proved hostile hosts on Monday night. Where does OKC stand after its debut outings? The Richmond Kickers were among those to claim their first win of the season on Saturday. We talked to Lee Kalashaw about sustaining success at City Stadium. Arizona United makes its debut this Saturday. Coach Michael Dellorusso joins us for a look ahead. All of this and much more on the latest edition of USL Pro Weekly. Welcome in to the latest edition of USL Pro Weekly. My name's Nicholas Murray. Very pleased to be joined by Jake Edwards. Welcome back, Jake.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to be here.
And by David Wagner. Welcome back from your trip to North Carolina, David.
Thanks for having me once again.
Have a really nice weekend for you, I'm sure, out on the road. How was it up there?
It was great. It's always good to go out and visit the teams. Saw some good matches, but we'll get into that here in a little bit, right?
Yeah, we will, because it was a weekend of firsts in USL Pro. We had first victories in franchise history for the OKC Energy FC and Sacramento Republic FC, and first wins of the season for the Dayton Dutch Lions, Orlando City and Richmond Kickers. A lot of good action to get into. Starting off, I think, we probably should start with Oklahoma City and their trip to California, where they put in a very nice performance to win 2-0 against the Orange County Blues on Saturday night. Didn't quite manage to pull it off against the LA Galaxy 2 on Monday night, but it's still an impressive performance. They rallied back, had the Galaxy 2 on their heels for much of the second half before they fell 4-2. What did we take away from the Energy's debut in USL Pro?
Yeah, I think they're going to be, overall, a win and a loss. I think they're going to be pleased with that. Of course, 2 wins would be nice, but I mean that's a tough LA team that they're playing at this point, and this is the first games for Oklahoma City and a kind of a tough road trip down to Southern California. But I think they'll be pleased with that. Impressed with the way they set themselves up initially in the first game. They came out of the blocks, fast. They really took the game to the OC Blues, and they scored some good goals. And I think they gave in the second game LA a real run for the money. And they looked a strong side. They possessed the ball well at times, and they scored a good goal. And I think overall Jimmy will be pleased with the performance.
I think the organisation that we saw, particularly in the game against Orange County, speaks to what Jimmy Nielsen's been able to do in this preseason, because they looked very well drilled, very well disciplined. Yep. Kyle Greig took the opening goal in franchise history very nicely, but I actually thought the second goal that they put together, put away by Nate Schiffman, was just really nicely worked. Great angled ball into the box, good knockdown, very good first time finish. That's a sign of a team that has some chemistry already built in, and they've only played in their first game of the season.
Yeah, I think you go back to say you're talking about how organized they were, and that was definitely the case this weekend. Very organized. They kept their shape the whole match. They took their chances. They passed the ball well. And then we go back to the game last night. Obviously, they're going to be disappointed with the result. That said, they definitely should have walked away with a point. I think they're going to be a little hard done by that, and I'll be a little upset about it because they did have the ball for most of that second half and probably should have had another. I mean, obviously, LA tacked one on at the end. The scoreline's a little deceiving in that sense of how close of a match it was. So, but again, as Jake talked about, I think they're going to walk away happy with this trip.
Yeah, definitely, I think so. And Pete Karinji, last year's PDL Golden Boot winner, gets his first professional goal in the game last night. So a little bit of a silver lining, a little bit of a thing to build on as they move ahead. On the other hand, Sacramento Republic FC, they took a draw in their first game against the LA Galaxy 2. They put together a very complete performance against Chivas USA's reserves yesterday afternoon. Justin Braun gets his second goal in as many games. Mike Vasito with a goal and assist on loan from the San Jose Republic. Again, this looks like a very well-drilled, very disciplined and very well-organized team that certainly... I don't think the chemistry is quite as far along as it is with Oklahoma City in the attacking third, but once it gets there, this is going to be a very dangerous team.
Yeah, I think you're right. They're certainly well organised coming out the back in the midfield, moving the ball well. They look like a team that's been playing together for quite some time, actually, and I think that's a testament to the work that Precky's done there as a coach, what he's instilled in the players, and the quality of the players he's put together. They really look to be on the same page, and I think when they start really clicking, as you said, going forward, firing on all cylinders, when they really hit that mark, I think they're really going to be a tough team to play against.
There was obviously an interesting undercurrent to the Chivas USA game, because obviously Precky is the former coach there. Justin Braun had played there. Rodrigo Lopez had played there for Precky as well. So it definitely felt as though those guys came out with a little bit of an extra edge. And Braun, I thought, was very, very good for for the whole 90 minutes, holding up play, being a nuisance to the defenders as Chivas was trying to build out of the back. He's put in 2 very, very solid shifts in the opening 2 games and has been rewarded with 2 goals.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, Justin can live up to his namesake and being brawn sometimes. He's big, he can be physical up there as well. He can be a pest. He scored a couple nice goals this past weekend. Great. This past 2 weekends, I should say.
Yeah.
Great start for him. And I think you have a team here that has a little bit of a chip on its shoulder in the sense that you have some talent on this team, guys that have been at the MLS level and want to get back there. So this is a team with a point to prove.
Now, a team that I think may have come into the weekend with a little bit of a point to prove was Dayton, because obviously they were not very pleased with their performance against the New York Red Bulls reserves in their opener. This game that they had, their 1-0 win against Charlotte, was maybe the surprising result of the weekend, because obviously Charlotte coming back added to what was a very good squad, but Dayton managed to find a way to score. Brock Granger gets his first professional goal. Matt Williams puts in another very good shift in goal. 6 saves, records the shutout. This was a very well-organised game. It certainly could have seen more goals. You had Eli Garner hit one off the crossbar in the opening minute, but it was a fun game to watch and definitely a positive momentum, positive boost for Dayton as they return home for their home opener.
Yeah, I think Sid and the team at Dayton will look to really build on this and as I said last week, there's a tough game to open the season with against New York, and nobody wants to lose 3-0 no matter who you're playing. So to bounce back from that, I think they showed a lot of character. They had the right attitude. They came into that game very positive, went after Charlotte. Charlotte has some really great additions to their side, and I think as they get into their stride, they're going to be a real top team to contend against. But really pleased for Dayton. I think that was a great way to respond to that initial loss, and the boys were full of energy and creativity, and they had some good attempts on goal. Got a nice finish. So Sid will be really pleased with how they handled that game.
We talked a little bit. I talked a little bit about maybe introducing Matt Walker into the starting lineup. They did that. I thought he was very good again. You were on hand, David. Yep. What did you see up close that maybe we didn't see on the live stream?
Yeah. So there was obviously there were some glimpses in the first New York game. I thought up close and personal. Again, it goes back to some of those hallmarks that we've talked about with some of those other teams that have succeeded well early in the season. They looked very organized in this match. When you saw Dayton play last season, when they were doing so well, they were very organized going forward. You could see them almost run up the field with that 4-3-3 shape as they moved upfield, working the ball back and forth. So there was more of that in this game than there was in the first game. There's some players that can really cause some problems on that side. We talked about Brock Granger. The nature of setting up in that 4-3-3s, you have some guys with some pace, but also some guys that are going to get up and put some pressure on them. And they didn't give Charlotte a ton of breathing room, too.
I thought Aaron Schoenfeld was absolutely excellent in this. He was really put a lot of pressure on the 2 centre-backs. I thought Bilal Duckett, that both of the Charlotte centre-backs had good games.
Yep.
But they were always being harried and harassed by Schoenfeld, who put in a really strong shift. Didn't score a goal, maybe could have, but he did his job effectively defending from the front, which is what Dayton likes to do.
And that's how the game started. Dayton actually should have scored there in the first minute. They had a great chance right off the line. So,
as far as Charlotte's concerned, I thought there were a lot of good things about this performance. They couldn't quite find the back of the net, forced Matt Williams into some good saves, but obviously the quality that they've added, Wells Thompson, Zach Boggs, was in evidence, and this is, once they find that little bit of chemistry in the final third, I think this is a team that, again, is going to be there or thereabouts at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think, we'll see if I come to regret this, but I'll stand by that comment. I think on paper, certainly in the off-season, they look a very strong side, and I was impressed to see them in the first game. And I think they're not quite there. It's early days. It's only one game. There's a lot of football left to play. But some very good talent there. Some good young players, some potential players, some good guys come with MLS experience. I think once they start clicking, they're really going to be a strong side.
Now, a strong side that has been clicking, not necessarily on all cylinders yet, but seemed to be rounding into a little more form this Saturday, was Orlando City. They took their first win of the season, a 3-1 win against the Rochester Rhinos, kept the Lions undefeated in their history against Rochester, and I don't think they could have asked for a much better start. We know what Orlando likes to do at home. They like to jump on you, they like to push forward in numbers early in the game, And to get that goal by Kevin Molino in the 3rd minute was obviously just a very tough thing for Rochester to come back from. That said, this still wasn't exactly up to what I think Adrian Heath wanted to see from his team. There were a lot of misplaced passes, one of which led to a Rhinos goal, and Rochester was kind of allowed to hang around, and they forced some bad passes from Orlando. This was it wasn't necessarily a positive result for the Rhinos, but I think there were some positives to be taken away from it, and I think Orlando isn't quite where they want to be yet.
No, I'd agree with that. Sometimes you score so early in a game, it can be have a negative effect on you. You ease off and you can disrupt your rhythm. Perhaps that wasn't the case with Orlando, but they're not there yet. They're not firing on all cylinders. It is early, and look, they're undefeated. So and it's another win. So they'll certainly be happy with that. There's a lot of changes from last year. They're a new venue. They're playing on grass now. They're not on turf anymore. They've got a lot of new faces in the side. There is some continuity, and certainly Adrian is instilling the same attacking, aggressive, high pressure style of football. But once everybody starts getting on that same page and they want to start moving the ball a bit more freely, I think they're not as fluid and stringing enough passes together as they were last season. I think that'll come. Tighten up some of those mistakes at the back that have cost a couple of goals. And as the season goes on and the other teams are playing against getting their stride, they may well get punished for some of those mistakes. So tightening things up a bit, and I think they'll be there soon. But it's undefeated. It's a great start. They couldn't be more pleased with that.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
5 points from 3 games, certainly a solid start. One of those kind of continuity pieces that you talked about, Kevin Molino had the goal in the 3rd minute, had an assist as well on Dennis Chin's goal. So he seems to be in pretty good form in this early season. And I think the fact that they're giving him more freedom to come inside and play in a slightly more central role, I think that's suiting him, because I think there's the chance that he's going to score maybe a career high in goals. I think his best was maybe 4 or 5 a few years ago, because he's always been an assist man. I think playing more centrally is going to open up more scoring opportunities for him.
I think so. I mean, obviously there's a lot of it on his shoulders this year too, the expectation of what's going to come next year as well. So it's a big year for him. Obviously he's been a big time player, not just for that team, but in this league the last few years. So he's going to want to continue and finish strong here as the Lions close out their tenure in USL Pro. But I think given the sort of those adjustments you're talking about, the ability to get forward a little bit more, I think that suits him. Who's going to score the goals for Orlando this year will still be the question for us. They brought in some new forwards, but they're going to need some contribution from the midfield as well.
Well, I think it's definitely, we've seen it in the past where they've had some standout goal scorers. You had Dom Dwyer last year, you had Dennis Chin 2 years ago, was absolutely outstanding. 3 years ago, though, it was very much felt as though it was goal scoring by committee. They scored a lot of goals, but it was really spread out amongst a number of members of the squad. That may be what ends up happening this season, because you have so many different players who can finish. You have Chin, you have Herzog, you have Molino. I think Seren's going to start finding the back of the net as well too, and so you're going to have maybe 4 or 5 guys who end up, maybe no one hits double digits, but you have 4 or 5 guys that each end up with 7, 8, 9 each, and that's where the scoring punch for Orlando comes from, especially in open play. Now, as far as open play is concerned, I think a team that looked very good in open play this week was Richmond. They definitely seemed to take a step forward from their 2-2 draw with Charleston in their opening game. Obviously, again, beneficiaries of the partnership that they have with DC United. Kyle Porter scores 2 goals. Michael Seaton gets his first of the season of what we think may be a very big season for him. But this was a very, very good home opener performance for the Kickers against a very good Pittsburgh Riverhounds team. What did you take away from this game, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've 2 very difficult opponents, with Charleston and Pittsburgh, 2 well-organised teams, 2 tough teams, but to score 5 goals in 2 games is a great accomplishment. I think as an attacking side, they look a very strong side, and I think they seem to be hitting the stride fairly early. Well,
I think the stride that they have is this is a team that seems very quick. It's a team that can really counterpunch well, counterattack well. And that definitely, the fact that they were able to get the lead against the Riverhounds, able to kind of add to that. The 2 goals that came after that were both just classic counter-attacking goals, both very well finished by Porter. I thought both of the finishes were very good, definitely worth checking out on the USL Pro Goals of the Week video. But but then they gave up the goal. Pittsburgh was definitely knocking on the door for the equalizer before Porter added the insurance goal in stoppage time.
Yeah. It's right there. When we talk about this Pittsburgh team, on paper, especially after looking with some of the additional loans that they got last week, this is on paper. This is one of the best-looking USL Pro sides we've ever seen. Yep. Hands down, they're stacked. So obviously they're going to need a little bit of time to all get together and play well. They just got these guys on loan not too long ago, and then obviously they have quite a bit of talent that they're bringing back, guys like Angulo and Dahlman and some of the other signings that they have. So. It's not surprising for me that Pittsburgh was right in there at the end, because I remember watching the end of the game and I'm like, holy crap, Pittsburgh literally has the ball like the entire end of the game. How are they not going to score here? I mean, the ball literally just sat at the Richmond end. So, I mean, hats off to Richmond for some solid defending and staying organized and composed.
There was a lot of sacrificing of the body in some of those last flurries. I mean, all hands to the pump. Throw yourself, get whatever you can, except for your arms in the way. But that's what I think Richmond does. That's the mentality that they have, and that's kind of the ethos that Lee Kalashaw has instilled. The guys that are coming in on loan, they seem to really buy into this quickly to kind of emulate what a Luke Vercoloni does, what a Henry Kalinji does, what a William Yombi does, to make sure that you protect that lead, especially at home.
Yeah, they got some great leaders, some great role models, as you say, within the team. That the new lads are coming in and they're seeing how these guys are full of energy, full of attacking flair, full of intensity and defending, and willing to throw their body, put the body on the line, throw themselves in front of a shot to protect the lead. So I think they've got some great attitude of some of these players here, and the new guys come in, see that, buy into it, and that's a testament to the character, a testament to the squad that Leigh puts out there year after year.
Well, to talk a little bit more about that and how he's tried to blend some of the DC United loanees into the Richmond Kickers squad, we got the chance to talk with Lee Kalashaw, and that interview will be coming up just after this break. Well, I'm very pleased to be joined now by Richmond Kickers head coach Lee Kalashaw. Lee, thank you so mumuch for taking the time to join us.
No problem, good to be here.
Well, first of all, congratulations on the first win of the season on Saturday. I know that you guys were, I think, pretty pleased with the draw against Charleston, but to come in and put together a performance as you did against Pittsburgh, who have obviously retooled very nicely this off-season, got to be good to get that first win under the belt in front of your home crowd.
Yeah, it's always very tricky playing Pittsburgh. They're very good defensively. They come in extremely compact. We watched them play in Orlando to pick up a point on the road there. Shows you what that team's all about. So, it was certainly a pleasing performance. We kind of increased the level from the Charleston match, and overall, I think we deserved the 3 points.
You've obviously had some continuity between the players that have come on loan from DC United to the Kickers this season, with guys like Michael Seaton coming back, Colin Martin having the opportunity to come and spend a little more time with you guys. But obviously when you get a player like Kyle Porter's caliber, of Stephen Birnbaum, who was a very highly touted draft pick, how easy was it to fit those guys into the lineup and put in the performance, given the performances that they put in?
From a coach's standpoint, it's never going to be easy. This is going to be an ongoing story for a lot of the clubs, I think. Now, we have the direct affiliation with MLS. Bringing players in a day before or 2 days before a game sometimes isn't the perfect formula, but ultimately, for us, we've got a very strong core of players that are returning and have a very strong culture within the group to win. And then it's down to the individual on loan from MLS. And so far, we've been very pleased with the attitude and the commitment to the Richmond Kickers. So I don't think it was a surprise how well we played and how quickly a new group of players able to gel together.
You obviously talk about that core group, the guys like Mike Callahan, Luke Vercoloni, Henry Kalungi, William Yombi. Having that group has obviously been a big part of the club's success. How pleasing was it to go through and win the regular season title last season, given the contributions that those guys made to it?
Yeah, it's very pleasing. When we came off the year before, we struggled. We just snuck into the playoffs at the end of the season. So we came in last year with a very focused mentality to perform at a much higher level. To be able to say that we beat Orlando the regular season just shows you how well we did. So it was good, but that was last year, and we've already talked about continuing that type of mentality, and so far so good.
One of the guys that we weren't necessarily expecting to see back with the Kickers is Matt Delicat, but he's obviously back, re-signed with the club. He's back with the team again. What does it mean to have a player that has been with the club that long and obviously offers the quality that he does up front, not just on the field, but giving players like Michael Seaton a chance to learn from him off the field, to learn how to be good professionals?
Yeah, it's always been a fabric of our organisation. We have a lot of players who stay embedded with the team in the community, and over time, they become a real part of the club. On the field, then off the field later, as they move into the coaching ranks. So, we have that culture again. It's something we're very focused on continuing, even as the evolution of the league changes before our very eyes. But Delhi, scores goals, and he's always done that for us, and we know his strengths, and we know his weaknesses, and for us, it was vital to get him back, to add some more quality and experience to the squad, but also we lost a lot of players who got great numbers for us last season, so it was very important about 2 weeks to go to make sure that Delhi was secured and was going to play this season.
You talk about the continuity that you have within the club, and obviously that's been evident on the field over the past few years. But you just added David Bulow to your coaching staff as well, obviously a long-time standout for the Kickers. What are you hoping that he can bring to the club in a coaching capacity now?
Look, again, Bulow has also been with us for many years as a player. He's coaching with them at club right now, and the youth ranks, a lot of our top female teams he's been working with, and he's looking to make the next step. So, he asked me to get involved. We think it's a great fit. He knows the system. He's been an important part of the success of the club over the years, and he's a qualified coach. So we expect great things from David, and he'll be a very valuable addition to the group.
You guys have a rematch from last season's playoffs against the Charlotte Eagles this Saturday. You're heading down to the Queen's Sports Complex. Is there a little bit of revenge on the mind here after they knocked you off in the semi-finals last season?
No, I mean, that's gone a long time ago. We picked up Asante from Charlotte, so he's on our team now. I think that's a really good pickup for us. It's actually our number one target in the off season, and we've been really pleased with Samuel so far this season. But it's all about us picking up points for this season now, the new competition, and we've got to try and get near to the top as quickly as possible, because it's going to be much harder this year than it was last year. I think there's going to be 4 or 5 teams who are going to be pushing all the way.
You talk about the evolution of the league. You've obviously been part of USL, not just USL Pro, but USL as a whole for a very long time. You talk about the competitiveness. Is this as competitive as you've ever seen USL's top division right now?
I think certainly from a talent standpoint, there's no question. I think it's going to take some time now, because a lot of the teams are bringing in lone players. So there's maybe not that much kind of pride and loyalty within the group initially. That's going to take time to form over the duration of the season. When you have a lot of new players on a team, I think that will be difficult and an important part for each coach to kind of create and generate. I think the fan bases of each club are going to be crucial, because that continues to improve across nearly all the organisations, and that's also creating huge home field advantages for several teams. So those are certainly differences we are seeing. But going back to my original point, the talent, and for us to have I think 5 players on loan from DC United for the last game shows you where the league's heading and the amount of quality on offer every week.
You talk about the evolution of the league. There certainly seemed to have been an evolution as far as the Richmond Kickers have been concerned over the last couple of seasons. You've increased your fan base. You're getting more people through the gate. You've got all of these great promotions, including the new beer that you guys have come out with. It definitely seems like it's a very exciting time to be part of the club.
Yeah, we were very pleased with our home opener. It was actually best one we've had so far in our history. It actually even blew away last year's Orlando game when we played them at the end of the season for the regular season championship. So it's been a fantastic start with numbers coming, with the financial numbers. Total sales were better than ever before. We recognise we have a long way to go, but this is something that we're very committed to and expect big gains over the next 2 or 3 years within the club.
Well, Lee, we're definitely excited to see this game on Saturday night in Charlotte, and we're definitely excited to see how the Kickers continue to move on throughout this season. Hope to talk to you again soon, but thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Obviously, the Kickers, they get another test this weekend. As I spoke with Lee about, they go to Charlotte in what is a playoff rematch on Saturday night. Charlotte knocked them out of the playoffs in the semi-finals last year. I think everyone was very surprised by that result. Everyone was really expecting another Orlando City-Richmond showdown after the 2 classic games that they played in the regular season. Lee says there isn't much of a revenge factor here, that it's a little too far gone for that to be the case. Are we sure that's the case with some of his players? Because I'm pretty sure some of them are going to be holding a grudge here.
Yeah, I mean, after the type of season that Richmond had last year, I mean, you got to be a little sore, and you want to have to exact a little bit of revenge out there. Obviously there's a lot of new faces in both locations, but at the same time, you want to go out, you want to beat a team that knocked you out of the playoffs. I don't care what anyone says.
These two teams played some very entertaining games last season. Richmond obviously came out on top in the regular season. They played that classic 3-3 draw at City Stadium early last season. But this definitely feels like it could be a game that is very open, and Charlotte was willing to do that against Dayton. Do you think they might ease off the gas a little bit and tighten up a little bit? Because obviously a team like Richmond, we saw what Dayton was able to do on the counter-attack against Charlotte last week. Richmond can be even more lethal than that. There might be a case where Charlotte isn't quite as willing to throw as many people forward as they were against the Dutch Lions.
Yeah, that'll be on their mind, of course. Richmond have the players, they've got the power and the pace up front and the finishing ability. They've got the players to really punish you, to get you caught out. I think Charlotte will be very mindful of that. They won't be in a hurry to commit too many men forward, and they'll make sure they keep their eyes open at the back there and keep their shape. Like as I said, they can you can commit up the wings and they'll get in there and punish you. They're a tough team. So I think but they've got to get some points from the game, Charlotte. So they can't be they have to be adventurous themselves.
Now, another team that's having its home opener, we were just talking about them before the break, are the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. They get to Highmark Stadium for the first time this season. They host the Wilmington Hammerheads, who come in off what was a very entertaining. It's a 0-0 draw, but it was a very entertaining game that you were at, David.
Yep.
What did you see out of the Hammerheads, and are they going to be able to challenge Pittsburgh on the road here?
Yeah, so, again, my takeaway for Harrisburg from the match was that I think they were a little hard done as well. They had majority of the chances in the possession in the first half. Wilmington evened it out a little bit more in the second. That said, I think if you shake it out again, there were some really good chances. I think there was a couple off the bar for Harrisburg in that match, and they looked pretty good. The contributions for some of their new guys on loan were pretty significant. There was a couple chances, I believe, with
Clesio Balquet.
Yeah, that's right.
That kid looks fast.
Thank you for the pronunciation help. I appreciate that. Where he pretty much rounded his man and just couldn't quite finish early in the match there.
The amount of space, there were a couple of highlights that I was watching, and the amount of space he was either able to gain or overtake his marker on in the space of 10 yards was very, very startling to me.
And I believe
if teams see that and they're going up against Harrisburg, they're going to look at that kid and they're going to be forced to think a little bit about how high a line do we want to play, because if we play a high line against this guy, he is going to burn us.
Yeah, and being on loan from Benfica with obviously a fantastic pedigree for players that come out of there is just fantastic. So, and I look to some of the guys that they have from Philadelphia coming back, guy like Hernandez, and some McLaughlin, some of the other guys that have a fantastic pedigree to really step up and do even more this season than they did last. As far as Wilmington, there's some good takeaways from that game. They have a lot of new faces as well. I think that, week one was a good experience in that they came out with a point. I think a point was good for them and about what they deserved out of that contest. So going into next week, building on that. So what did we do well, and what could, that David always is going to prepare his side well. So I think going forward they'll be all right, but they'll hit their stride within the next couple of weeks.
Now, obviously, the first couple of weeks we saw the Riverhounds kind of, especially very well disciplined against Orlando, kind of had a couple of breaks. I think the opening goal, they were a little bit unlucky with the deflections. Obviously, Seaton took the chance well, but then they came out of their shell a little bit, got caught a little bit on the break. I think they're going to be very adventurous this game. I think they want to put on a show for the Steel Army. It sounds like they're going to have a sellout, as you would expect for their home opener. There could be some real fireworks in this game because Wilmington is going to get the chance to counterattack, and I think that's the sort of game that they would like to play.
Yeah, it's going to be a great spectacle. Looking forward to watching that game. Fantastic venue, and I'm sure the Steel Army are going to be in fine voice as usual, supporting the boys. I agree. I think they've got to come out now. 2 losses. They need to come out and start turning this thing around. And they're only, inches away from that, I feel. They're very unlucky against Orlando. Should have come away with the win there. And as you said, some things went wrong, obviously, against Richmond, but showed a lot of good things. Organisationally, great attitude, very tough to beat, and the ability to score goals. So if they can. They've conceded a few. If they can tighten things up at the back there, keep the concentration. But I think they're going to go at it and be mindful of as I say, not committing too many men forward. Be mindful of the defensive duties as well. But I think they're really going to go for it and get some goals. They need that win.
Definitely should be a very entertaining one. Now, another team that is going to be going out and looking to entertain a passionate supporters group is Arizona United, who make their debut this weekend. They have their home opener against OKC Energy FC. This has obviously come together very, very quickly. There was obviously a lot of turmoil in Phoenix in the off-season with USL PRO, but everything that they seem to have done in the past month, owner Kyle Deng, general manager Kevin Stevenson, the appointment of Michael Delarusso as head coach, we're starting to see the names trickling in. Guys like Matt Castle, Jonathan Topp coming in on loan from FC Dallas. This seems like a franchise where it's going to be a work in progress potentially this season, but it seems like a franchise that has a very, very bright future ahead.
Yeah, this is a really solid ownership group. Fantastic, experience there. Kyle Lang, what a sports executive. This is an ownership group. We would love to have in the Arizona Phoenix area. We're thrilled that they've come on board. As you said, the timing has presented some challenges. The time is not ideal. But we've done what we had to do to maintain continuity and to help raise the level of what we think that city and that market deserves. It's a fantastic market. Kyle brings a huge experience, from the sports marketing, advertisements, and commercial side, operation side as well of sports franchises. Kevin Stevenson is also on board, doing a great job. I mean, the guy, there's not enough hours in the day for Kevin at the moment to get his team ready. But he's assembled a small army there to help him, and they're, we're supporting them, and they're going to be ready to go. They've worked tremendously hard in a short space of time to get this team up and running. As you said, they've got a new coach, Michael Dellorusso, first-time professional coach. Of course, professional experience in the MLS as a player, great experience under Sasha at Maryland. So excited to see what he can do. He's putting his team together. They've been working hard, and I think they're ready to go. And what a great team to be playing against for your first game of the franchise history now.
I will say this: if United plays as well as they advertise, they are going to be something really fun to watch, especially as the season progresses. Now, David, you were out there in Arizona early last month. What was your impression of where this ownership group is at and what it's going to be able to build out in the desert?
Sure, yeah. I think the biggest takeaway is what Jake said, is it's really a first-class organization who doesn't have enough hours in the day. While I was out there, they were just every day, as soon as the sun came up till late at night, they were pouring away trying to get everything right, whether it's from an operational standpoint, trying to get a team together, trying to find the coach at that point when I was there. They were working hard and everything. Obviously, they're all about the local market, the local community there. So, they're trying to get involved with the supporters, fix some things that had gone wrong in the past and make everything right there. So there's a big commitment to the community, and it's all about that Phoenix, Arizona market, not just Phoenix, the city, but all the other surrounding towns and areas around there, Peoria and Scottsdale and everything like that.
Glendale and all of that.
Yep. So huge commitment there, and they're just ingrained. They're all local guys that want to do it right.
Well, we obviously are very impressed with what Arizona United's been able to do off the field so far. To talk a little bit about what they've been able to do and the team they'll be putting out on the field this Saturday, we got the chance to talk with head coach Michael Delarusso, and that interview will be coming up just after this break. Well, I'm very pleased to be joined now by Arizona United head coach Michael Delarusso. Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Of course, thank you so much for having me.
Well, first of all, congratulations on your first head coaching position, or your first position in USL PRO. This has got to have been a bit of a whirlwind, getting this with everything that's been going on around Arizona United over the past month or so.
It definitely has been. There's been a lot going on. Kevin Stevenson has played a big role in it. Kyle has a vision of what he wants in the end, but getting everything started and kicked off has been a challenge, but at the same time has been a delight to work with these guys.
Obviously, this is your first head coaching position. You're coming over from the University of Maryland, which obviously has a very well-known style, a very well-known, well-established college program. What are you hoping that you can take from your playing career and the experience you've gained under Sasha Solovsky with the Terrapins to Arizona United?
I've been a guy that's kind of soaked everything in along the years, whether it's as a player or as a coach. I've created my own style, but I've taken a bit from everybody that I've been a part of. So Sasha's obviously been a big influence on my life. I've known him since I was 10 years old. He was a coach for me, and then he brought me in to Maryland and, gave me the reins right away to kind of establish myself as a coach I wanted to be. Also, along the way, guys met in MLS, Oscar Pereira has been a big influence on me. He's always there for me, and he's a bit of a mentor for me. So I have a lot of guys around me that have helped me through the way.
Now, obviously, you formerly played for FC Dallas professionally, and we announced today that one of the FC Dallas's players, Jonathan Topp, is going to be coming on loan to you. How have you, with bringing in a player like that with his young experience, how do you hope that he meshes into the squad that you're putting together out in Arizona?
Jonathan is a terrific young man. We have a bit of a history together. I recruited him at Maryland. He actually originally committed to come to Maryland, but then FC Dallas offered him a contract. And the kid, that's his lifelong dream. So you couldn't hold him back from it. But we've constantly stayed in touch since then. He fits the type of style I like to play. To go along with him is, a team that I got to handpick, Kevin Stevenson and myself. So even though it's late in the game, we had a lot to do with, who we wanted, and we got to pinpoint guys that fit my style and fit my personality type.
So there's obviously some players that have been announced already, and the one that really jumps out to me is a guy like Matt Castle, who is obviously great MLS experience, USL Pro experience with the Pittsburgh Riverhounds a few seasons ago, who was an all-league selection. What do you think Matt's going to offer the team as far as that kind of providing that engine room in the center of midfield?
Yeah, Matt's a great connector. He's a great connector on and off the field. He was a captain at Maryland, even though he was never named one. Every team he's been a part of, he's been the glue. And that's what we're looking out of him. He's a great two-way midfielder that brings us a great possession style to our game. And, I have a lot of trust in him. I've known him for years. I coached him at Maryland. So it was important for me to get a guy like that I know extremely well and I can trust on and off the field.
Now, there's obviously some buzz building around Arizona United. You have the tremendous supporters group out there, La Flor de Aroja. What's it like counting down to the days until Saturday night and the home opener?
It's been exciting. Obviously, we're running around doing a lot of things, and I give a lot of credit to everybody that's within the organization because everyone's had to take on different roles and maybe more roles than they even anticipated. But I went and met with the supporters group a couple days ago. They're a phenomenal group of people, and I really look forward to, working closely with them and giving them a product on the field that they'll be proud of.
Obviously, for you guys, with the way that this has come together, there's a certain amount of uphill struggle that we might anticipate seeing on the field. What do you feel as though is a realistic goal for United to accomplish this season?
No, like I said, we want to put a good product out on the field. We want to play a good brand. We want these guys to be comfortable with each other, comfortable with me as a coach. At the end of the day, though, I'm a winner. I want to win. I understand there might be, some goals that we may not be able to reach, but in my head, I would like to do everything that, an established organization is able to do. So on the field, I hold myself very accountable to put out a great product and at the end of the day, get results for these fans.
You're obviously going into a game on Saturday against an expansion side in Oklahoma City. They just completed their first two games against Orange County and the LA Galaxy 2. One win, one loss over their trip to California. Did you get a chance to see those games? And what did you see in the energy that you guys are going to be keying on as far as that matchup?
Yeah, I was able to watch both games. They're an extremely organized side. They play a very good style of soccer. Jimmy has done a great job with that group. Obviously, you can tell they've played some games together, and they're gelling quite nicely. Hopefully, I'm on the back end of their trip, which are, some of the pluses and minuses of dealing with scheduling. But, it's going to be a challenge. They're a tough team to break down defensively. And as I said, they're very efficient going forward. So it'll be a good matchup for our guys and a good step to see where we're at.
If there's one thing that you want the fans to know about this team, what is it? That these guys are ambassadors. I challenged the guys on my team and everybody within the organization that we are now ambassadors of this great sport and of this great state. We want to bring, pride to Arizona as a whole, and we want to give them a product that they'll be very proud of. Well, Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really appreciate it. Best of luck on Saturday and for the entirety of your first season.
I appreciate it, Nick. Thank you very much.
As we mentioned before, it definitely feels as though there will be a steep learning curve. However, they've got some players here that have USL Pro experience, that have MLS experience, and I think Delarusso is the type of coach that he's going to bring in guys that he trusts, and he's going to bring in guys that I think he knows will mesh well quickly. It'll be very interesting to see how they fare against the Energy, who obviously have progressed incredibly well in their expansion season.
Yeah, I think so. You talk about the guys that they're bringing in with experience. They're bringing in a lot of guys that have played in this league, have played at the MLS level. So, again, it's just going to be about how long it takes for these guys to gel together. Obviously, the amount of training time and build-up hasn't been the same as some of the other clubs. And some of the teams that we've seen have struggled at this point are teams that haven't quite had the same length of preseason as some of the other ones as well.
True.
So that'll be the biggest uphill battle. Luckily for them, they're going to be at home all this month. They have 3 home games in the month of April. They don't go on the road till next month. So that'll be really good for them because they're going to have time to be there, get the most out of their training time, not have to worry about traveling anywhere. So given how their schedule sets up, it's the best possible scenario for them.
Definitely is. Now, speaking of best possible scenarios, Dayton is coming in to its home opener with a very positive result against Charlotte. The team they're going up against, though, is a team that they kind of passed going up as the Rochester Rhinos were sliding down, missed the playoffs for the first time in club history last season. Now, obviously, as we mentioned earlier, there were some silver linings to take away from the Rhinos' performance against Orlando. They definitely worked hard. You can see Bob Lilly's got that work ethic within the team. JC Banks took a very nice goal. Good to see him get on the score sheet because he's going to be a key player for this team as the season goes on. What are we looking for out of the Rhinos as they try to kind of gain ground on Dayton that they maybe lost last season?
Yeah, I think it's just a bit of a rebuilding situation for Rochester. New coach, some new players coming in, and they're trying to get the team back up to the levels it's been in the past. So, there's a challenge ahead of Bob. I think he's a very experienced coach. He's well up to their task, and we saw a lot of positives in their last game for sure. And they're getting on the score sheet and moving the ball around well, and showing good energy and a good attitude. So I think they'll be looking to go to Dayton. It's going to be a tough game for them, and Dayton are on a real high after that win. So it'll be a great opportunity for Rochester to start building.
I think there's a really good opportunity here for Rochester to kind of play. I think the style that I've seen in the past from Bob Lilly teams is they are teams that do like to counterattack, and the players that they have, especially in attack, with guys like Alex Dixon, guys like JC Banks, and then some of the support that they have from midfield. I think Lance Rosenboom is going to be a very, very good player for them this season. They're going to have the opportunity to counterattack a Dayton side that, as we saw even on the road against Charlotte, was very willing to push numbers forward quickly. Might open up some gaps at the back for the Rhinos to exploit if they can take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think so. Bob's going to come and he's going to be very organized, and he does his homework. He does his homework as much as anybody else in this league. I've had the chance to spend a lot of time with him the last time he was here in the league, and then also this season, just watching him in different either the camps we've had or the different sort of preseason combines that we've had as well. And he's very astute. He's going to come in. He knows what went wrong last year, and he knows what needs to be fixed. That said, obviously the first week didn't go well, but you can bet you that he's going to go through. He's going to study the tape, and they're going to come back more prepared and adjusting for what didn't go well last time. So I have every confidence that they're going to turn the ship around in Rochester this year.
Now elsewhere on Saturday night's schedule, we have Orlando City against Charleston. These two teams played opening weekend of the season. They're the last two USL Pro champions. That game ended in a 1-1 draw, and Orlando had to score 15 minutes to go to earn a point on the road against Charleston. What do you think the teams took away from that game, and what adjustments do you think they might make ahead of Saturday night's game at Disney Wide World of Sports?
Yeah, I think, as we mentioned before, I think Adrian and the Orlando team are just going to be looking to tighten things up a little bit. As much as they look good going forwards, and they're scoring lots of goals, they are still conceding goals. They can be got at the back, whether that's through positionally or certain other mistakes that they're making there. But they do leave themselves exposed and can be got at. So I think between tightening things up back there and just improving the possession rate, I think that'll be something Adrian will be addressing in this game against a tough Charleston team that can punish those mistakes in school.
I think Charleston may be looking for a something similar, especially defensively, because they obviously held the lead in both of their games so far. They were pegged back, had to take a point from each one. It's obviously going to be a tough place to play to come and get a point out of this game, let alone a win. But it does seem as though they do have the players, with a guy like Andre Lewis, guys with the speed of Javier Cordovez, who certainly looks a lot sharper, looks a lot trimmer this season. Mm-hmm. These are guys that might be able to take advantage on the counter-attack and maybe put away some of the chances that the Rhinos weren't able to last week if the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah, I think so. I think that they're in a similar situation where it's still early in the season. They're still making adjustments. Both teams obviously had a pretty lengthy preseason. Both participate in local preseason tournaments. Charleston hosting theirs right at their own stadium, and in the case of Orlando, same this year. But I think building up to this match, I wouldn't say that they were going to look at the first game and make a ton of adjustments. I think the type of adjustments they'll make are the type of ones that you make early on in the season, where you just progress from your first game to your second game, as opposed to what did I specifically do or not do in that first match against this team.
Sure.
So I think it's going to be the normal early season adjustments, because not everything's going to go well in your first few games. So I think it's just adjusting, going from there, seeing what's worked and not worked, whether it have been against the same opponent or not. I agree that they're still conceding just a little bit too easy. So going in, you're going to have to be tight in the back against a side like Orlando.
Well, we round out the weekend with Sacramento Republic FC. They claimed their first win against Chivas. We spoke about that earlier. They make a Southern Californian swing again, where they face Orange County on Saturday night, LA Galaxy 2 on Sunday. What should the goal be here? Because I'm particularly looking forward to Sunday night's game. These two teams played a very good game against one another the first time around, and I think there's the chance here for the Republic to maybe spring a little bit of a surprise on the road, and the Galaxy 2's undefeated start to the season. What are you looking for out of these teams on the West Coast, Jake?
Yeah, I think you're right. It was a really entertaining first matchup. I think it's nice to see them playing against each other so soon again. What adjustments are they going to make? Certainly at both sides then to affect the change and get that win. I think Sacramento are looking every bit the team that could do that, and they're going from strength to strength each game. So I think they're really in a good position to go down to the Galaxy and possibly get that win. Looking for a little bit more, perhaps up front, some more create some more chances, or at least take those chances. But the Galaxy have been scoring a lot of goals, so it's going to be a situation where they need to up their strike rate and be tight at the back against the Galaxy.
Definitely the case for the Galaxy 2, who sit after 3 games on top of the USL Pro standings, 7 points, 2 wins and a draw. Everyone, I think, coming into the season was wondering what this team would look like, how it would compete. I think there were some who thought maybe this is not necessarily a team that's going to be as competitive as it has been. I'm not surprised by this, because these are young players that really want to cut their teeth. They want to score goals. They want to entertain. They want to catch Bruce Arena's eye to get a shot at the first team. The fact that they're top of the table at this point of the season doesn't surprise me at all, and I think they're going to be there or thereabouts for the rest of the well into September.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, he's put out a really good team, and these players are all in the shop window to get into the first team. So yes, they're under the microscope every time they get on the field, as are all the players that get paid to play this game. I would say they've got a few games at home in the run up here, and once we'll see how that affects them once they start traveling across the country and going to some pretty tough environments to play, and if they can. We'll see how that affects the players and how if they can maintain the winning ways. I think we'll see some there'll be some challenges ahead for them, but they've had a fantastic start. And they're quality players. These are quality players. Whether they're just on the fringes of the first team, coming out of the academy, or have already been in the USL Pro. These are make no mistake about it. And once you put them in that competitive environment on a field where you're playing against another 11 men who get paid to play the game, and they're professionals too. All those competitive juices take over. So it's not then about showing for the first team. It's about the team spirit, which from looking outside in seems really a strong, cohesive unit, and the boys seem to be really working hard and enjoying this new challenge, this new opportunity to play against some other really, really great teams in the USL Pro.
Well, I want to give a quick plug for a story that was on the Galaxy's website before Monday night's game. But really great job by Adam Serrano on Raul Mendiola, who's a young, very talented, homegrown player for the Galaxy. Definitely worth checking out on lagalaxy.com. Make sure you go read that. As far as this weekend, who are the players that you're going to be keeping an eye on, David, as we go through, as we ramp up? We have, I think, 7 games this weekend.
Sure, yeah. I think if we go back and stay actually in Southern California here, I'm looking for more from Orange County this weekend. It was a playoff team from last year, and I'm looking for them to get a little bit more inspired. When you look at a team, I look to their captain. So for me, it's Alan Russell. Who's going to come out and set the tone and inspire that side. So coming out, I think it's going to be important for them this weekend.
How about you, Jake?
Yeah, I'd echo that. I'm looking to see how. I've been excited by some of the performances in the goals, and I'm just looking to see how some of the boys respond on teams like Orange County and teams like Pittsburgh. That perhaps have been a little bit hard done by. I'll be certainly watching Justin and the Pittsburgh players. I'd like to see how they respond to those first two results, and I think. I think they're going to put a fantastic performance in there. So we'll see. I'll be watching those guys closely.
Yeah, definitely will be. I think for me it's Pittsburgh as well. And I was definitely impressed with Joseph Nguenia. He wasn't available due to injury for their first game of the season. Made a very good cameo appearance coming off the bench against Richmond. If they can get him into the starting lineup, I think he adds a whole new dimension to them going forward, because he's the guy that will make he'll either deliver a great cross, as he did for Collins John for his first goal in a Riverhounds uniform, but he's also the guy that will make that late run into the penalty area that a guy like Matt Dolman will be able to find. And that's the kind of scoring punch where you've got Jose Angulo, Jason Johnson dragging these defenders out of position. Then the avenue opens up for Nguenia to come into the space, just as he did so well for Richmond last season, and find the back of the net. I think that's going to definitely be a very entertaining game at Highmark Stadium.
Without doubt, I agree. They've got the pieces there, all in place, if they can just put the puzzle together now.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, Jake. Thank you so much for joining me, David. We hope you've enjoyed this look around USL Pro on USL Pro Weekly. We hope you'll join us again this time next week as we take another look around the league. But until then, my name's Nicholas Murray. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.